Have you ever felt lost, perhaps alone at the same time, as if you're alone in a dark forest trying to get out, but regardless of how much you walk into a direction, all you see is just more of the woods? It's a feeling I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, and I'm sure that some of the people are still trying to find a way out of our hypothetical forest. And while I'm aware that personal demons, as people like to call them, do exist, I think we can both agree that the best way of dealing with them is not to interact with actual demons, be it doing rituals or interacting in any way with their cult. But what would happen if you went ahead with it anyway? Well, allow me to tell you the story of a game called Paper Lily. Released in early 2024, Paper Lily is a psychological horror indie game developed by a small team consisting of just two people named Leaf 6010. However, it's hard to talk about. We are also talking about its prologue, Project Cat, released 3 years earlier in October. So for the first part of the video, we will be putting Paper Lily to the side, and instead we'll be discussing Project Cat, since it establishes common themes, gameplay aspects, as well as humor. The game starts off with Cat laying in the grass in the middle of a dreamlike space. She gets up, and with nowhere else to go, she heads up ahead towards this closed gate. She gets past it, and before her lays a flower on the ground. She picks it up and continues heading forward, eventually being met with a building covered with flowers, 4 vases in front of it, but only 3 of them actually having flowers planted in them. Once she places the flower into the vase, the screen darkens and everything is blood red as far as the eye can see, and the once beautiful flowers covering the ground followed suit. A strange dark figure appears before Cat, which goes ahead to toy with and threaten our protagonist. It takes the flower cap placed in the empty vase and shows it to our protagonist, except it's not a flower, and instead what appears that Cat actually placed in the vase was a dead magpie, which we are told that the gruesome image before us is the consequence of our actions. And with one last warning, the figure leaves Cat be, leading to her waking up. Now, this is where the game truly starts, and it does so with presenting us 3 girls using a Ouija board. After spelling out the word die, a loud thunder scares the 3 of them, and as the thunder is heard, the door opens, making them regret their choice of going along with this so late in an empty school building. The door opens, and Cat enters the room. She introduces herself as a new occult club member, and goes to ruin the girls' fun using science. After all this, we're finally able to roam around, explore, and of course, complete our objective, that being preparing a ritual for which we first require 3 rooms to be organized in a specific manner. The puzzles, yes, I said puzzles, weren't that hard, and you can approach them in different ways to solve them. Once that's done, the next things we need to take care of are the runes, a piece of air, candles, and chalk. We obtain the last 2, have Cat cut her own hair, and take a rune from the box in the room which we started in. However, like some rituals you might have heard about, the entire building needs to be pitch black, and we also need to get a hold of candles. But before that, what we need to do is find a way to darken the last classroom, and to do that, we have to help one of the girls we met earlier, who is a theater club member, with a favor in exchange for the key to her club. Cat does that, and she indeed finds what she's looking for in the club room. Now, what we could do here is be dicks and not give back the keys we borrowed, but it won't be like that, at least not for now. Instead, we'll play nice and give them back, after which we start the ritual. Following these events, our protagonist is transported to a place which I can only describe as the backrooms, specifically the 2nd level. Cat wakes up next to a staircase with a locked door at the top, and all that is around her is a long, looping hallway with pipes above her and on the walls, with more locked doors being found the more she explores, some being impossible to open, and not to mention getting more and more weird the more she looks around. After exploring everything there is to explore in this small area, the only way forward is clear. Cat manages to lockpick her way through the locked door at the top of the stairs next to which she woke up to, and goes through it. Going through the formerly locked door, Cat walks into the school again? Well, at least it looks like the school. Walking through the corridor, we can hear someone's voice taunting Cat. Walking further, she finds an array of golden letters, envelopes which contain the instructions of preparing and starting different rituals. The mirror ritual, the boss ritual, and the 3-room ritual, which is exactly the one that Cat did to get here. All of them scattered around on the floor. Who they belong to and for whom they are meant for are questions which are left in the air. Venturing on, the strange voice taunts Cat once more, telling her that she has no way of breaking out of there. Venturing even deeper into this mimicry of her school, Kat's torment begins by this omnipresent being following her, toying with her, telling her of how Kat's mother was left by everyone she had close to her, finally left alone by her own daughter, all the while demonesque beings stalk Kat. The taunting never ceases, and Kat is shown a memory from her childhood, with any resemblance of her family being cut out or corrupted. However, the thought of finding what she came here for fills Kat with determination, and so she ventures on. Eventually, Kat is met with a dead end. Well, there might be another way to go, one might think. Well, once Kat arrived here, she was left with nowhere else to go. The wall closing behind her, locking her in. The omnipresent being once again makes an appearance, making sure to torment her. And just before she loses her sense of self, Kat's free to go back to the corridor where she woke up in. Except, this time it's different. This time, another door is open for her to go through, and with nowhere else to go, she walks through it with no way back. All she could see before her is nothing but an endless void of darkness. And with the only way out disappearing behind her, she's left to venture onwards, finding patches of, we'll say, ketchup to make YouTube happy. It doesn't take long to find the 3 girls we made earlier, except they don't look as lively as they once looked. Continuing to walk forwards, Kat finds a simple door in the middle of the darkness, and on it she can make out the word exit. She tries to open it, but it's locked. Turning around and going back, the door opens. With a last-ditch effort and whatever left of the hope she once had, she walks up to it, not knowing that that will be the last thing she'll ever do. And thus ends the prologue. However, for the observant and curious among you watching, you might have wondered what would have happened if things were done differently, and I believe this is the perfect time to discuss an important aspect of Paper Lily. You see, when it comes to completing the objectives laid in front of you, there isn't one linear way of going about completing said objective. Think of a somewhat sandbox experience with a clear objective you need to do, and such freedom assumes you are also free to not work towards your main objectives. This is where dead ends come into play. You see, what we discussed up until now is the regular, intended, canon ending. Depending on the choices you make, you can change Kat's future and achieve different endings, or dead ends. Such endings include the pusillanimous path, in which Kat abandons her ritual midway through, the party wipe ending, in which you befriend the 3 girls and do the ritual together when you're supposed to be all alone for it to work. You can guess what happens. Among many others that have you do specific things, some not so intuitive compared to others. The story and events themselves change because of your actions. You are entirely in control of your own destiny, but at the same time, there is no such thing as agency. No amount of personal will can change destiny. The more you try to change fate, the worse it'll be for you. Yes, you can befriend the girls, and yes, you can live with and befriend them. You can even chicken out, saving everyone from their inevitable deaths. A happy ending, finally, one might think. And yet, isn't that bittersweet? Yes, we might have saved them. We know that isn't their fate. You know what really happens to them. You know the real ending. You know what will happen to all of them. We can say that we have something to gain from all of this. At the end of the day, all we end up with is more questions than answers. That, at least, is for certain. Let's not abandon hope, however. Let's continue on and finally get started with the first chapter of Paper Lily. The first item in a to-do list is always the hardest one to cross off. If you could just get one item done, the rest will surely follow. We just need to start. That is why some people find the easiest items first, and start from there. It gives them a better chance of getting something done. This is because setting things in motion is difficult. Choosing to do your homework is difficult. Choosing to clean your room is difficult. Choosing to get out of bed is difficult. Change is uncomfortable, and you might feel that laying things the way they are is easier. To let the flow carry you, so to say, until you reach the point where doing nothing does more harm than doing anything. When this happens, choice is no longer a choice. Is that also a choice? The choice of doing nothing? For now, I'll focus on getting the first item on the list done. And thus begins chapter 1. Meet Lacey, a socially anxious, depressed, insecure, and withdrawn girl. Not much else is known about her, but what is for certain is that because of the previously mentioned issues in her life, she isolates herself in her home and puts all the blame on herself when anything goes bad, regardless if it's big or small. However, that's not the end of her struggles. As if that wasn't enough, the strange condition she finds herself in makes living her life a lot harder, making other people wary and distrustful towards her. You can see this exemplified within the first minutes of gameplay. What's even weirder is that all of this happened for seemingly no reason at all. At least, that's as far as we can be sure of. The only exception to this rule is her own brother, Hero, who seems to be the most supportive person in her life, is also the only family member of Lacey's that we know of. As a means to look for a way out of the hole she finds herself in, Lacey saw answers on the wide world of the collective mind of the net, more commonly known as internet forums, specifically Devil's Eye forums, a space dedicated to learning about and doing rituals. We can learn more about how rituals are practiced by looking at what pages Lacey saved on her browser, and the most important pieces of information being the following. In order to prepare for a ritual, one must order the instructions from the site itself. If one is chosen, a golden envelope is delivered to one's home address with one's name on it. One must follow the rules while following a ritual. In the case the rules are unfollowed, grave consequences follow. We aren't told what these are though. And lastly, the option of buying new doorknobs is available on the site, although it is from ads. It might be a way out if things do go south, but at the same time it could also just be a scam. Either way, it's better than the in your area type ads we are accustomed to see. Lacey gets the letter within a day of placing an order. What are the instructions for? Something called the boss ritual. We don't know how quickly Kat got hers, but we do know that Lacey got her letter way faster than normal, within a single day to be exact, and we are told that normally it never even arrives. And so Lacey starts reading the ritual. She ties a red thread on the phone cord, paints an eye symbol on the front door, and tells Hero to leave before midnight. We want to be all alone for it to work, because who knows what might happen if we are not. Sets an alarm clock to midnight, and all that is left is to wait, or in Lacey's case, to take a nap. Waking up, Lacey finds herself in a dreamlike area, and it seems like this isn't the first time. A dream, or I guess nightmare, sequence presents us with what seems to be Lacey's biggest fears, or her worst past experiences. She finds herself wandering inside of school, finding a note on the floor by someone coming off as benevolent with Lacey, telling her that she missed out on a lot and that her classmates made sure to give her everything she needs to catch up on every class material. Lacey, in turn, only sighs upon reading the note and continues going forward. Students appear behind the class window next to her, mocking and laughing at her for an unknown reason. After a little bit more walking, Lacey finds her locker and goes to open it, finding it completely filled with heaps of trash. With everything that needs to happen happening, she is free to leave. Waking up and with everything set up, all that is needed to do is call for a boss and get on. Everything should be fine. You're all alone, right? Well, you should, but those bloody footprints and weirdly personal notes about Lacey's life and family tell a different story. Following the footsteps outside leads us nowhere, and there is nothing else to focus our attention on. Next thing to do is finish the ritual, count the number, and get on as fast as possible. Be careful, though. If not, then all I can say is that it won't be pretty. However, if we are to purposefully mess up the ritual, then we are able to find more clues about the ritual itself, as well as other relevant details. One such detail is that it seems like a demon-like entity haunts Lacey's home if she fails to do the ritual properly. Bizarrely, this entity also knows a lot about Lacey's internal life, family, and struggles. One interesting thing to note is that after failing to follow the ritual instructions, the note left by Lacey's mother on the kitchen table gets bloody, and its contents are replaced. The content replacing the writing of her mom is the instructions to another ritual, an unnamed one, with some very weird instructions. Now, this could either be in regards to the dead end at the end of this route, or an entirely new and relevant ritual. If the ritual does go right, then a bus should stop at Lacey's home within seconds after dialing the number. She hurries to get on, and manages to catch it in time. Lacey is once again brought into her nightmares, where nothing has changed. Goes to everything we discussed a few moments earlier, finding the note, walking through the hallway, getting laughed at, finding her locker and opening it, and everything staying the same. Wait, what's that? Well, my dear viewers, those are the very accurately named red items. What they do, not even the wiki knows. What we can be sure of, however, is that they are relevant key items tied to the nightmare sequences, making what seems to be descending staircase that goes deeper the more you collect. That is all is known about them. Getting off the bus, Lacey finds herself in the middle of a forest far away from home, when it's pitch black outside. Finding herself in a similar position to Kat's eternal occurring hallway, she is forced to take the only path left available to her, going further into the forest. Following the signs and making them point in the right direction, Lacey manages to find a way forward, as well as an abandoned train station that isn't of much use, other than the scissors one could take in exchange for unforeseen consequences. Continuing on the path, Lacey finds a locked gate blocking her path. With no way to advance, she needs to figure out a way to continue on. This, my friends, is the introduction of puzzles, specifically open-ended puzzles. I'll skip over them because they aren't relevant enough, but just know that there are multiple ways of solving them. Venturing forwards, Lacey finds herself at a campsite next to a beautiful open area with an immense tree in the middle, an area where multiple paths start from and lead into different parts of the forest. Heading left, Lacey finds herself presented with a weird construction, presumably a home, with a facade decorated with plants and sculptures. Heading inside the home, all that can be seen inside the neglected and somewhat claustrophobic rooms is more sculptures, paint splattered on different areas of the floor, as well as spiderwebs in the corners. Venturing further into the empty home, the lowest point of the home can be reached, what we can only assume to be the basement, where a tall sculpture stands in the middle of the room under a large cloth, and next to it stands a small figure, its attention being taken by something else, its back turned towards Lacey. Being the first living being Lacey sees in this new world, perhaps it could, at the very least, help her with knowing where she is or where to go. Holy shit. I mean... okay. Going northwest instead, towards what the sign calls Red's Treehouse, Lacey finds herself at a large lake, with the only way forward being walking on a bridge. Walking on it, she finds what she assumes to be Red's treehouse, sitting isolated from the bridge she finds herself on, but nothing else. Oh, finally, a friendly face down there. Sure, they do look a little kooky, but we shouldn't judge others based on appearances. Yeah, okay. I tapped on it, come on. After managing to get past numerous near-death experiences, Lacey finally arrives at the treehouse where the potentially unfriendly figure stands next to. The first thing Lacey does once she gets there is, of course, and like any reasonable human being, check in the garbage of the owner. But for now, the very first thing Lacey does is be a respectful human being and go say hi. By going inside of the home completely uninvited and once seeing nothing of interest, she goes back outside. The figure introduces itself as Rune, and turns out it is indeed friendly. Doesn't explain the trickery and all of those near-death experiences that'll probably leave Lacey traumatized forever, but a friend is a friend nonetheless. Well, a demon is a friend, to be specific. Lacey explains her situation and moves to Rune in hopes of finding an explanation, and Rune actually delivers. It is not a possession, but rather a curse that was laid on her all this time. This does explain her situation, especially since she used to be a regular girl, but one day out of nowhere, people started avoiding her like the plague. Well, that's as far as Rune's understanding of this world is concerned. Rune tells Lacey about Red, a renowned demon capable of curing curses. News is that we are currently located at Red's home. Bad news is that Red's not home and hasn't been for a while. However, Rune does state that it is a lighthouse Red likes to visit and gives Lacey the route to reach it. Straight up north to the lock site and past the lake. Going back to the large tree, Lacey finds herself pondering on her situation and the answers she managed to get. A curse, it seems, has been the cause for a nightmare of her life. But if that's the case, then another question arises: how and who put this curse on her, and more importantly, why? Lacey finds herself in need of assistance, so to find the answers to these questions, she decides the best course of action is to phone a friend. Which, can I just say that is the most nonsensical thing that happens in this game? Bloodthirsty demons, rune-obsessed demons, changing game genres mid-section. I can look past that. Actually, I can see the vision, but rigging your bro from a parallel universe with no cell phone towers around, that's too much. After that mood-lining conversation with Hiro, Lacey finds an almost hidden door handle in the mirror of the tree. Turning it, she looks inside the tree, finding it hollow on the inside, and it looks to be that it goes way deeper than she might expect. With nothing else to do, Lacey follows the path leading to the locked site. It does take her long to reach the gate, and once she gets there, she notices a locked gate with 2 notes on it. The first advising travelers to close the gate behind them, which is in relation to an event simply referred to as the recent primal incident. The second, warning of a possible death. Wandering around, Lacey finds a note behind the statue. It is addressed to someone named Narzi, saying that this is the only way up north because of another chain of events relating to beings named Primals, and telling this Narzi that the writer hid keys to the locked gate around the area, as well as giving some hints about their whereabouts. And so, Lacey, now knowing what she must do, turns around and looks for the keys. The first key Lacey decides to go for is the one in front of the sculptor's home she visited. But while heading back, she notices something ominous and hidden between the trees. Unknowing what's hiding in the dark, she works up her courage and slowly approaches the darkness. Upon closer inspection, she manages to somewhat make out what the figure is supposed to be. She takes another step forwards and... Oh, it's just my YouTube analytics, and they say that over 97% of you that watch my videos aren't sub. If you made it all the way to this point, I assume you like what you're seeing, so if you wanna see more, subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of my uploads. Once at the sculptor's home, Lacey wanders all around it, searching for the cactus spoken of in the letter. It takes her 3 circles around the home until she notices the only pot with a cactus in it. She takes a closer look at it and notices a key inside of it. With newfound determination, as well as an embarrassment induced by her apparent blindness, Lacey leaves the sculptor's home and heads for the next key, hidden under a fake rug, as it is written in the letter. Lacey's first thought is to visit Red's home again, being reminded of the only rugs she has seen in this weird place. She walks inside the treehouse and immediately starts snooping around, moving carpets and touching everything, regardless of how harmful it may seem, in hopes of finding the second key. While snooping around, Lacey finds something hidden below a rug, a ladder blocked by yet another padlock. Does it lead anywhere? The key obtained from the sculptor's home doesn't seem to work, so it may be something else entirely. Either way, Lacey's focus is still on unlocking the gate to the locked site, and there seems to be nothing useful here. Leaving the treehouse area, Lacey finds a tight corridor formed by the trees on the other side of the lake. Goes over to investigate and finds a rug blending in perfectly with its environment, moves it aside, and below it she finds the second key. Thus, only one remains, the one hidden behind the differently colored tree. It sounds easy enough, but that's before realizing that that's what Lacey's been looking for all this time. She wanders around the large tree for a little bit, trying to figure out where she hasn't gone yet, and while taking a stroll, she finds a broken lamppost with its lamp fallen down and broken. Lacey takes it, thinking that maybe she'll find a use for it in the future. She once again starts wandering in the same direction she went before stopping and finding herself on a thin road leading to a dead end. A dead end where a thin tree is located, and to her surprise, is the only differently colored tree she has seen. She walks behind it and finds the final key she needs. She heads back to the locked gate and opens it, leaving nothing else to do but to venture inside the dark woods in front of her. Fortunately, the nice letter writer laid out petals for Marzi to follow to not get lost, so as long as Lacey follows them, she should be fine. Following the petals, Lacey walks by many unfortunate souls that did not make it out of there, the carnage only getting worse the deeper inside the woods she goes. However hopeless and scary things may present themselves to be, Lacey carries on courageously, or as courageous as she can be considering her circumstances. Follows the petals relentlessly, and it seems like her trust is rewarded. She walks down the thin path southwards, and she can finally escape this nightmare of a forest. Oh, I guess the petals were a lie. And I'm also guessing that Lacey didn't make a mental map of this place either. We'll mark this down too. Realizing that the petals are not to be trusted, Lacey turns around and desperately attempting to not make a sound, goes and hides in the nearest bush. It seems like she once again needs to figure out things on her own. Just don't wander around for too long. We wouldn't want her getting lost, do we? Well, I mean, it's GG. What the fuck? That scared the fuck out of me! Upon exiting the locked site, Lacey finds herself confronted with yet another roadblock. A mermaid and bunnies that turn into ketchup when she gets near them. What great survival instincts. Welcome to the lake, the last area Lacey needs to get past to reach the lighthouse. There's not really a lot to say about this area. The best thing one can do is leave. Once Lacey manages to lure the mermaid monster away from the boat, and she also manages to find the 2 paddles she needs, she gets on the boat and begins paddling her way. After some period of time, an unknown amount, but definitely enough to start raining, Lacey eventually reaches the shore. Walking forwards, she admires the environment around her, even stopping to pick up some flowers. After a little bit more walking, she finds herself at a dead end once again, only a large metal door standing tall in front of her. A strange door indeed, but what lies behind it? Opening it using the purple knob reveals a shop, a weird one at that, selling potions and other beverages, all done by this shadowy figure. The portal looks familiar, but I can't quite put my finger on why that is. The shadowy figure isn't talkative. However, it gives Lacey something called a rainbow potion with a smile on his face, or where his face is supposed to be, at least. Lacey looks at the bottle and ponders her options. The stranger handed her an ominous drink, and it has been established that every single being she encounters wants her dead one way or another, and that no stranger shall be trusted. Considering this, Lacey takes the only responsible decision she could do. She takes the drink in her hand and gulps it all down. With a newfound spirit of determination, Lacey says her goodbye to the shadowy shopkeeper and tries the other doorknob. Upon turning the orange doorknob, Lacey finds herself in the middle of a tight path surrounded by trees, at the end of which lies nothing but a small tent. Now, normally one shouldn't go rummaging through the property of others, especially if they're in a horror game like this one. It's a sure way of getting killed, and it's something anyone with a little bit of survival instinct can sense. As such, Lacey turns away and goes to find another way. These people, if you can call them that, seem to have a great and very close relation with their family, and are definitely role models to follow. Now, the yellow moth creature is willing to give Lacey a doorknob in exchange of helping them fix their family issues. Now, Lacey is a moral person and wouldn't want to intrude on private, familiar matters. It's the family's problem, not hers, and she definitely won't be corrupted by the promise of a doorknob of all things. What? Thought I'd lie? Come on, what'd you take me for? I never considered doing something so horrible because of inconvenience and for material gain. And so Lacey gets hold of the doorknob. It is time to head out and continue onwards. She inserts the doorknob into the door, turns it, and opens the metal door. A dark stairway is revealed before her. Using what she learned so far from her visit in this strange place, Lacey makes use of the lessons and goes ahead and descends, seeing nothing around her. She trips and hits her head, prompting her to pass out. When she awakens, Lacey isn't anywhere near any stairs. She awakens in a dream. Another dream sequence. Well, I assume you know the drill by now. Walk northwest, walk past the only doorway. Wait, there's a second one. For it was just one. Well, I guess it's worth checking it out. Strange that the word knife was censored there. I wonder what for. Lacey goes into the garage where she... What the fuck? Lacey gets the... and does what she's told. But before leaving, she notices a red spark on the floor. Upon closer inspection, it is a red item. With nothing else to do, she once again heads to the garage, in the middle of which her wardrobe stands. She walks in front of it and opens it. She awakens inside of what appears to be a prison cell. Not surprising, considering what she did earlier. What is more surprising is the fact that not only is the cell open, but also left completely unguarded. If nobody will oppose her, then Lacey might as well try to escape. Well, not through that door at least. Taking the box in the corner of the room and pushing it into a nearby cell, Lacey manages to climb up onto the box, unscrew the vent, and crawl into the vents. There's someone there. Wait, I have something for this situation. Nice one, Lacey. Did you just throw salt in my face? Yes. It's good to see that Lacey hasn't changed. Or, I guess bittersweet would be a better word. The stranger introduces himself as Sai and tries to make conversation, and fails, which prompts Lacey to abandon him. But before any proper movement is done, or any words come out, they are interrupted by the sound of glass breaking, followed by a loud roar, making the both of them run away to the first spot they can find refuge in, which doesn't look too inviting. When the coast clears, they both head towards the direction the sound came from, which leads them to a large, open, albeit flooded room where an old friend finds them. Ron almost reveals Lacey's name, which prompts her to show him up to avoid any risks of any further damages by revealing her name to strangers. We'll ignore the fact that she gave her name to someone that wanted to kill her earlier. Her justification? To avoid being killed by someone writing her name in a notebook. Personally, I've never heard of such a thing. One thing learned from this interaction is that both Sai and Lacey are stuck in there, and the only probable way of heading towards the lighthouse is going even deeper into this creepy place. And so the objective is made clear: find a way to get rid of the water and make a way further down. And thus, Lacey begins exploring the environment around her, first heading south, and in wandering the hallways, she finds an open bathroom. Still skeptical of Sai and wanting to be left alone, Lacey tells him to wait outside. Contemplating the position she finds herself in, and the not so numerous possible choices she can take, Lacey remembers her brother, and, of course, decides to try and call him. Conflicted about her situation, as well as Sai, Lacey asks for a second opinion, to which she is answered with an uncharacteristic thought from Hiro. Either have him tag along a little bit and see what's up for him, or ditch him. Although Hiro feels different about the situation, he does tell Lacey to have a little bit of faith in Sai. If only there was a way to get rid of him, then she could finally be at peace. Putting that in the back of her mind, Lacey lets him accompany her while exploring this ominous place they find themselves in. Walking forwards, they both find themselves back where they started, with nothing useful found. Heading northwest instead, they find a locked room, and to the south of it, a weird room with an immense clock hanging over Lacey, which once again enters alone. What's even weirder is the time it's locked in place at 12. Well, also the fact that whoever is in that room didn't want Sai entering it, but we don't care about that, and neither is Lacey, remaining cold and distant from him. To the east is yet another locked door, but also an interesting find. A simple white room with patches of grass in the middle, in which a single music box stands. Starring it makes you play a soft lullaby, and listening to it in its entirety gives us an achievement, if we're playing on the Steam release, that is. That is none of our concern for now, especially in Lacey's case. So, straight south she goes, finding a broken elevator, but also a generator room, in which Lacey's to-do list before I die falls out of her pocket, landing in front of Sai. He offers to talk about it, but Lacey kills any sort of attempt he makes. With nothing of use here, they head further east, where they find a staircase, at the top of which is the door Lacey opened to get inside, and it's locked. Obviously. What's more interesting is the bucket Lacey dropped when she tripped down the stairs. She takes it, but she's no use in it. Sai, however, is of the opposite opinion, considering it an armor piece. Considering they explored everything there was to explore, the both of them wander around the building, trying to find a way to get rid of the wire to go deeper in. It took 25 minutes of wandering to finally come up with a way out of this predicament. If water problem, bucket. Men have bucket. Lacey doesn't seem like the biggest fan of this idea, but I have a vague idea of who does. Lacey remains the voice of reason in all of this. One trip to the bathroom to throw the water in the sink is enough for Lacey to question why she's even entertaining this idea. It is a good idea. Second bucket is filled and Sai offers to hold it for Lacey, thinking it's heavy, like a true gentleman. Lacey instantly puts down the offer. Second bucket is thrown in the sink, and Sai reassures Lacey that it'll work. Third bucket is thrown, and Sai comments on this entire thing being a good workout. Fourth, okay, I think you get the point. The both of them keep running back and forth, filling and emptying the bucket over and over and over again, even making Rune question their methods. After thousands, or maybe even millions, of back and forths, they finally lower the water level to a point where they can go further down and not worry about any water. And someone's pleased to see this idiotic idea actually work out, and it's not Sai this time. What's important is that it worked, and we did it with minimal losses. Well, the only thing that remains is shutting down the facility, so that we do, and we find a broken elevator, as well as a home in the middle of it. A big one at that. It even has a mailbox and a well-kept yard. Does anyone live here? And if so, why? It's hard to imagine someone voluntarily isolating themselves to this extreme, even more than Lacey does. But with no other way forward, she and Sai enter the home. Behind the door lies a rich designed... what is this? Neo-Gothic? I'm not an interior designer, so I have no clue. Dark hallways with a lot of paintings hung on the walls. Lacey follows Sai's lead, following him in what we can only assume to be a living room with more paintings hung a fireplace, as well as a tea set. So he lights up the fireplace and suggests that the both of them relax for a little bit, to which Lacey hesitantly agrees. This is an interesting point in the plot because Lacey reveals the reason why she's doing all of this. Remember what I said earlier in the video? The thing about something isolating people from Lacey? Well, the girl admits that she might be possessed or cursed. It's been like this since I was little. Back then, I used to think I have a black cloud that just follows me everywhere. It makes people run away from me, it makes them hate me. They always have this terrifying look on their face when they look at me. Sometimes it turns into hatred or anger. With animals it's even worse. Dogs will bark at me and I can't even get close enough to bear a cat. Or today I tried buying something at the store and failed horribly. I hate that I can't even do something as simple as that. It's like just being around me makes people tense and aggressive. I have memories of my childhood where things were fine, something must have changed at some point, and then everyone suddenly started acting differently with me. For a really long time I thought it was my fault. I thought maybe I'm just broken and different. I thought I did something wrong. I thought that people had a reason to hate me so much. I know better now, but that doesn't change how that feels. This thing inside me, whatever it is, it's isolating me from everyone. Even my parents hate being around me. They leave the house for weeks at a time and make excuses if I ask to come along. My brother is the only one who's there for me every single time. And I know how hard it is for him, but somehow he never falters. Without him, I've been trying to get better for so long, so this ritual is, well, it's my last hope. Upon hearing all of this, Sai gets closer to Lacey, takes a good look at her and admits that something is indeed wrong, to which she responds with calling him weird. Amazing conversational skills. Their talk is interrupted by what we can only assume is the owner of the home, albeit dressed very weirdly and with a sack on her head. I'm sure she's a reasonable lady capable of having a respectful conversation. Okay, she started screaming and scratching her eyes to the sack, and that was such a powerful scream it knocked both Lacey and Sai out. Lacey's vision gets dark, and upon regaining her vision, she wakes up in a familiar place. Unknowing what's become of herself in the real world, Lacey considers her options, so she starts trying to find an exit. A third doorway has appeared. Curious, upon walking through it, she finds herself in what looks to be a classroom, judging by the numerous desks all around the room. Upon getting near the front of the room, she is confronted by tens of silhouettes of what one can only assume to be students. They don't waste any time and begin judging and belittling her, telling her that a bird that happened to fly into a window that happened to be right next to her seat died, and that it's her fault, saying things like, "You killed that bird," and if she can make a bird die, I wonder what she could do to people. Blocking any exit Lacey might take and surrounding her, they tell her to take responsibility for her actions and to eat the bird. Faced with a difficult dilemma, she stands looking at the dead bird, contemplating her choices. Eventually, an idea crosses her mind, and although it's a moral dilemma she finds herself in, it looks like the best thing she can do. She picks up the knife from the desk the bird was laying on, turns right to face the student, and stabs him, killing him in the process. Tell a lie long enough and it eventually becomes the truth. Closet materializes in the middle of the classroom and she walks up to it. She opens it and steps aside. Upon waking up, Lacey finds herself lying face first on a hard stone floor right next to a cage. Looking around, she notices a familiar face still stuck inside. Talking to him, she says her goodbyes and expresses her wish to leave this place, intentionally leaving out the part about saving them. When confronted about it, she doesn't make any promises. Upon leaving the room, she realizes she's in a different part of the house. The creepy paintings never left though, and this time they're much weirder. She thinks her plan over and considers escaping this place her top priority, though she considers saving Sai, or that guy, as she calls him. She explores her environment, and it doesn't take long until she meets a monster. one without a name. She decides to call it Spider. Very original. Spider reveals details of great importance, such as the name of the hostess, Miss Knives, as well as the way to get out of here. Find 5 specific items and somehow unseal them. And thus, Lacey finds herself stuck in this part of the house, attempting to find these poorly defined items, causing her to search in complete blindness for something she doesn't even know what really is. Aside from the immense library, on this part of the house there is also a small bathroom, a weird room with cages and ominous paintings, a locked room, but there seems to be someone already inside it, and what can only be assumed to be a kitchen by the massive cooking pot in the middle, as well as the shelves with seasonings standing on them, and a cookie jar with an eyeball inside it. Just normal everyday stuff, really. Stirring the water inside of the pot, something surfaces. A black thing. Lacey tries to pull it out, however it seems like it's part of something larger. She'll need something else to get it out. Going back to the room with the ominous paintings, Lacey takes a good look at them. Upon closer inspection, she notices the eye of the girl inside of the paintings is sticking out. She pulls it out, leaving the girl with no eye, which isn't taken as a kind gesture, crawling out of the painting and beginning to chase Lacey, but she manages to escape in the first try. There were no deaths occurred by accidentally running back and the way out turning into a wall.
Okay.
Another lesson learned. Going back to the kitchen, she finds a frog and a key. The frog is fed to one of the plants in the living room, and the key has no obvious use at the present moment. Oh, and also the entrance to the room disappeared, disappointing Lacey. Going back to the living room, she checks the teapot sitting on the table next to the fireplace. Upon noticing it's full, she waters another plant, making it thank her. What a respectful chap. Next, she starts the gramophone next to the entrance to the room, possibly putting herself at risk and luring Miss Knives, but it's still making the plant happy, so it's worth it. She then realizes what she needs to do next. Lacey runs down the stairs and into the room Size locked in and tells him she spoke to a spider, and I told her how to get out of there, so she'll go ahead and do that. She then exits out of the room. However, after walking for a little bit, she realized something. Could the key she found be the one to Si's cage? She rushes back and tries it, and it felt like a glove, a freeing sigh. After adopting Si, she wanders back to the living room. However, upon entering, she notices something different. She walks closer to inspect it and finds that lying on the floor is a lockpick, making her instantly realize what she can do with it. Lacey picks it up and runs back to the library she once was in. Not taking a left turn and instead going right, she hurries towards the locked doors and has Si pick the lock for her. Inside of the room, which appears to be a large bedroom, she notices something sticking from below the pillows. Something black and having the shape of a rag. And of course, she takes it. 1 out of 5 items collected. This'll take a while. Next, she walks back into the library to pick the lock of another locked door. Upon entering the room, she hears a familiar voice calling out to her. Spider, Spider. Talking to it gives us an important clue about this place. This place isn't real. Shocker, I know. Everything around Lacey is but a figment or manifestation of Miss Knives' own desires. This would explain the weird design as well as Spider's appearance. So, in order to escape, Lacey must break the illusion, which brings us back to the 5 items we need to collect. They aren't just random items, but actual valuable things close to MK. I'll regard to her as MK from now on. I can't keep typing Miss Knives over and over again. Once she gets them all, Lacey will come back here to decode them. And thus begins the hunt for the items. The second item lies inside of the cage in the room where Lacey ran away from the painting girl. Third is inside Spider's room, hidden below a drape. Fourth, Lacey is required to give the 2 eyes she has to the eyeless painting, turning it empty and allowing her to go inside, where a pike towers above her with a dark knife stuck on the top of it. And yes, Lacey does ask Si to cut himself, which he happily agrees to, and breaking the illusion of the knife. Last item is floating inside of the cauldron, and Lacey cuts it, prompting it to reveal itself as a human foot. Yeah, the last thing to do is paint the rectangular shape in Spider's room, making the object reveal itself as a notebook. All that needs to be done now is to figure out the order to burn these items in. Yes, we want to burn each and every one of them. To help with this, we get a helping hand from the handy painting in Spider's room. Placing the items in its hands reveals to us more than the order of burning. It reveals to us MK's actual life before she became like this. Now, I love to read it out loud, but it's over 10 minutes long and the video is already long enough as it is. So what I will do, however, is summarize it. She was born blind and she admits that her life was below average. Her parents considered abandoning her due to her blindness, not being able to contribute to the family. Despite her disability, her mother wished to give her a chance at life. This came out to be a good choice because after a while, her mother fell ill and became bedridden, so MK started taking care of her however she could. We are also told of a friend she managed to make named Iris, a cheerful girl who made her life a lot brighter and happier. There was one thing missing, however. She wished to be able to see just like Iris. Thus, she was blessed with her first blessing, gaining the ability to see. She was able to see everything, from colors, shapes, her home, everything. There was one thing that bothered her, however, and that was her appearance upon looking in a mirror. Due to her blessing, everyone started going distant from her. Seeing her on the riverside after gaining her sight, MK spoke with Iris, and we learned that upon hearing of the miracle, Iris wanted to give her a sketchbook along with some paint, since she remembered her talking about wishing to do just that, and thus started the habit of showing her bedridden mother her drawings of things she liked, be it trees, fruits, or even people. After a while, however, weird and dark sketches started appearing in her sketchbook, sketches which she didn't remember drawing. After some time, her mother's condition worsened more and more, and with her inevitable death coming, MK's father started preparing a funeral. MK obviously didn't want her mother to die, so she did the only thing she could, gave her a cold compass and prayed for her the following night. When her third blessing came, it came as a surprise to everyone in the village, including herself. Her mother's condition miraculously improved overnight, and she was back to her former self, doing all of the household chores in the morning. Just 2 days after the blessing, the villagers came knocking at their house's door, accusing her mother of using witchcraft to cure herself of a deadly illness. Once they laid hands on her, they went and burned her at the stake in an effort to cleanse the village. There's one instance when MK was in school, when she was harassed by the other children, and this time she had her art supplies taken away from her. One of the kids opens her sketchbook and sees the dark drawings that went done by her. The child accuses her of being a witch, threatened to report her and destroy her supplies. Even mocks her, calling her a blind freak. In that moment, an unnatural force twists the child's leg 360 degrees. Shortly after the fourth blessing incident, she found herself with the villagers knocking at the front door of her home once again. This time, it was to cleanse the entire family. Her father denied blood bonds with his daughter, saying he found her on the streets. When no one showed any signs of believing him, she attempted to flee, prompting the authorities to shoot him down, killing him. As for his daughter, she was detained and kept in a cell until preparations were done for her cleansing. The fifth blessing came when Iris visited her cell with a knife in hand. She offered the knife to her, saying that burning is a painful and long way to die, so it's better and quicker to just do it this way. With the pieces of the puzzle now obtained, and with the atmosphere of the home now changed completely, it's clear what Lacey must do. She looks around the home and finds the room previously locked now open. Inside, she finds portraits of a girl, as well as a lighter. Seeing nothing else of value in there, Lacey turns around upon picking up the lighter and finds the entrance to the room burnt to a crisp, and the girl in the portraits now being just a black silhouette, the paintings now destroyed. The same can be said about the rest of the home, as well as the paintings in the living room now being ripped apart and bleeding. Lacey starts the fire and burns the blessings in the order of appearance. Mirror first, sketchbook second, cold compass third, foot fourth, knife fifth. The illusions will break apart now, soon it. Too bad, I was starting to like this place. Well, someone took offense to that, and that individual isn't happy with Lacey and Sai being inside of their home, uninvited. Miss Niles finds the both of them burning her blessings, saying that someone always ruins everything when she finds peace. What began as a simple warming up session ended up as becoming a fight for survival, as Miss Niles attempts to murder both of our protagonists, and of course, she uses knives to do that. After the struggle for survival, we learn of the sixth blessing. When the day of the cleansing came, it came with the sixth and final blessing. As the fire engulfed her, she cried out against the injustice, cursing the bystanders for their cruelty. When that happened, the sixth blessing came upon her, leading to chaos all around her as the fire beneath her engulfed the entire village. She untied herself using the knife given to her by Iris, and she tried to search for her. However, her burnt feet weren't able to hold her up. Ultimately, she stabs herself in the eyes as soon as she comes to the realization that she was cursed all along. MK turns to the fireplace, walks towards it and puts it out, thus putting an end to the illusion, breaking it. Lacey wakes up back inside the facility, and upon being friendly greeted by him, Sai insinuates he was the one that dragged her out of the home to safety. Walking eastward, they find Miss Knives, the real one, looking like, as Sai puts it, a used napkin, crying. East of her enclosure sits Lacey's friend, Spider, looking much bigger than she remembers. It tells her that it's content being locked in a cell and has Miss Knives for entertainment if it needs it. It also mentions that it won't take long until another illusion is made up by her, tangling others into it once more. She won't be lonely, she has visitors. It then gives Lacey a broken doorknob that supposedly will help her get to the lighthouse. Walking forwards, Lacey's met with another door, instantly the only doorknob she has, the one she came here with. She goes ahead and opens the door with it, walking inside of the place reminiscent of the beginning of Project Cat. Sai reminds Lacey of her to-do list, the one she did of things to do before she dies, and suggests she do another one after everything is done and over with, starting with getting him something to snack on. He tries to be a supportive friend, but doesn't really succeed. Still, he did cheer Lacey up, at least a little bit. All that remains is taking the flower out of the vase and replacing it with something else. A sheet of paper, perhaps. An origami? Perhaps a paper lily? The door opens, and she's the one to go first. Lacey is left waiting for him, but what she doesn't realize is that Sai took the origami out, causing the door to close, and walks away afterwards. And thus concludes the entirety of Paper Lily, at least what we have to go on so far. However, you may see that the video isn't even close to ending. That's because we aren't done yet. There's a lot we missed when glancing at the game from a distance, so all that remains to do now is dissecting it and investigating everything closer. Now, let us start from the very beginning. We'll try to come up with a timeline of events and explain each part as it comes. I'll also try to keep it as close to the game as possible, so I won't look at any external parts like sneak peeks or Reddit posts or wiki articles, with the exception of important details. Miss Knives is the first to experience the supernatural. Assuming the world of Paper Lily is based on ours, then she would have been alive any time after the 16th century, by virtue of her story orbiting around the burning of accused witches and witchcraft. We can narrow the time frame to the middle to late 16th to 17th centuries, assuming she lived in Germany, of course. Sometime after her death, she's taken by demons and transported to a facility, perhaps the one Lacey found herself in towards the end, to be experimented on. We find details of her experiences in the facility in the library inside of her home. She didn't want to partake in them, as she was afraid and delicate, and even one researcher wanted to stop, but the other responsible wanted the research to continue, despite the limited amount of human souls they had on disposal. She inevitably turned broken, a shell of what she used to be. Now, I'm unsure of what the research was for, but by piecing together the small clues, we can assume that it was an attempt of reanimating a dead body by use of injecting the life of a human soul inside it. Kat had a normal childhood. Well, as normal as she could have had it, considering she was raised by a single mother, and her father left early on in her life, but late enough to be remembered by her. This, of course, affected her greatly and created a large hole deep inside of her with no way to be filled, regardless of how much she or her mother tried. As far as her childhood is concerned, not much is known. She was a regular girl, occupying herself with activities such as sketching and drawing. There's nothing to suggest she had it rough, since the only time we can see her young self, and didn't show any signs of malnutrition or dehydration. let alone abuse. Her home was elegant, yet modest at the same time. It seems that her mother was able to take care of her on her own, but we can't be sure that things are this simple. Aside from that, we can assume that the game takes place in Japan, judging by many of the characters having names of Japanese origin. All except Cat. Cat being a name of Greek origin. How she could have ended in the Japan of the 20th century, my guess is as good as yours. However, after a while of thinking and consideration, perhaps her parents managed to get in Japan proper during its isolationist period. Perhaps when the Japanese had trade deals with the Dutch. It's not uncommon for Europeans to have Greek names, so my best guess is that she isn't Japanese, but is the child of merchants that somehow stayed in Japan. Growing up, Ken managed to befriend and get close to a girl in her class. But, of course, the longing for a father figure never left her. Eventually, Kat could bear it no longer, and she decided that she'd go looking for her father, which was no longer alive for a long time. She talked to a friend about it, and it appeared that she had an idea on how Kat could do it, since she was very familiar with rituals and obscure occult tradition. This is when she warned Kat of the serious danger she'd put herself in if she does do the ritual, but Kat stubbornly persisted. Defeated, the friend tells Kat about a golden envelope with the instructions to a ritual that might make Kat's wishes come true. Name of the ritual? The 3-room ritual. Thus, Kat joined the occult club, and during nighttime, she trespassed onto school grounds, meeting the 3 girls, and did the ritual, getting killed by the same demon that was tormenting her. After her death, what became of her was a mere dark, shadowy being Lacey would eventually meet. Lacey, however, is an entirely different story. The first half of her life was normal, and it was her living the best life she could. This was until her life got turned upside down as she started being harassed by her classmates every single day she went to school, and it didn't stop her calling her names or making fun of her. It got to the point of making her life a living nightmare, as seen from the nightmare sequences. Going back to school after a while, a mocking "welcome back" letter was given to her, filling her locker with trash for a quick laugh, and forcing her to do stuff I wouldn't have my worst enemy do, and all of this happening seemingly out of nowhere. She didn't do anything other than being a normal girl, nor did she move schools. Her hatred didn't stop there, however. It extended to her family, too. Her parents began to despise her too, neglecting her, which explains her small stature relative to her age. Not just that, but cases of physical abuse are likely to have happened, considering the second nightmare sequence in which Lacey's mother asks her to get a knife from the garage, and upon going there, Lacey begins getting nauseous and collapses, which is a possible outcome from intense fear or anxiety. Don't quote me on that though, I'm not a professional. Everyone around her begins acting this way. Well, everyone except her brother, Hiro, which remains by her side even in the darkest times and tries to help her however he can. After years of living a nightmare, Lacey decides to look for a way to break out of her predicament. This is how she finds the forums on which the boss ritual is found in. Maybe that is how she'd find answers, or even a solution to her condition. The entire ritual is a death trap, and I'm not being hyperbolic. The entire thing was made as a plot to gather humans for experimentation, using the ritual as a facade. If her needs to be believed, and what's actually happened to her is indeed a curse that originates from the demon world, then it is very likely that a demon did indeed curse her. If that is true, then the entire thing was premeditated. We can be sure of this. By obtaining the fragments to a broken doorknob, and if given to the phantom cat in the shop, Lacey obtains the grey doorknob, which she can use to open the steel door situated right after the lake. Opening it using the doorknob reveals the grey library, which reveals even more secrets. Variations of rituals were documented by recipient. Any humans that enters here by way of ritual is carefully tracked. No accounts of human infiltrating by their own means exist, although easily detected. Average recorded survival time of human following ritual rules, 15 minutes. Average survival time achieved breaching ritual rules, 140 minutes. Average rate of adherence to the ritual rules, 98.31%. Demon can pick up on a human soul from at least 5 meters away. Exceptions exist. Children as well as the elderly or the sick. They are less perceivable and less satiating. Due to these factors, their value is considered to be negligible. Demons won't hesitate to kill and consume humans. Organizations or regulations don't follow free consumption of souls, which must be reported. Any demand goes to the appropriate channels. She was meant to be taken away and experimented on. Had she not woken up on the bus, or not gone off the bus at all, she would have reached the final bus stop, where many other buses also have their final stops. It doesn't take too much wandering around to meet the demons that were supposed to take her from the bus. They knock her out, and Lacey awakens in the middle of what can only be assumed to be a dissection made by demon doctors. Well, at least that's her fate in Dead End 1-4. And speaking of the boss, there's a familiar looking demon in there. Don't see him? Let's zoom in a little bit. Familiar? Still no? Well, how about this? Sai isn't human. This is how he knows so much about the world, as well as demons, and also how he managed to survive this long. Demons eat humans, as stated in the writings of the Grey Library, and Ron even warns Lacey to be careful with demons, since she'd be killed instantly. Every single time Lacey was alone with him, she was within kissing distance of death. And yet, Sai didn't kill her. He never made a move towards that. His motives remain unknown. His existence as a demon explains the reason why he didn't go with Lacey back into the human world. It's likely that demons cannot survive at all without a ritual being active, and even then, their impact is limited. Perhaps Lacey wasn't being paranoid after all. Well, that is all I could gather by looking at the game alone. Sure, there are wiki entries that reveal the names of unnamed characters, or theories floating around like the one about Red being Cat's father, but those are baseless at worst and very meta at best, which is not something I am particularly interested in going into. I obviously didn't touch everything this game has to offer, since if I did, this video would be 3 hours long, and I already spent way too much time writing this script as it is. So if you want the full experience, I do recommend playing the games for yourselves, especially since they're free. So with that, I want to thank you all for watching this video. If you liked it, subscribe and like the video and comment what I should cover next. And of course, join the Discord server. My second playthrough of the game was streamed there with other members of the community, so if you're interested in doing that in the future or want a place to talk with people of similar interests, then I have a link to it in the pinned comment.